Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End is one of the most ambitious movies ever made. For a movie in 2007, it was very ahead of its time when it came to heavy crossover films and crazy spectacle blockbusters, especially in today's day and age where we get at least one or two of these behemoth event films at least a year. However, what makes it such an insane and ambitious film isn't just the scale of the movie, but rather how much shit is going on. There are so many characters with different motivations, so many items and lives that are used as pieces of leverage. It makes for a very layered and interesting movie when you have characters switching sides, but it also makes for a confusing hell of a watch. And this is all fully shown on screen with a scene about an hour into the movie, which is the convergence of the characters on the Black Pearl. This is easily the most confuzzling scene in the movie, and with all the films I've seen today, might just be the most confusing scene of all time. The Black Pearl switches in ownership like 4 times in the span of 10 minutes. There are deals on top of deals already established, as well as new deals being made during the course of the scene. Everyone wants something different. For something even more different, it's essentially a Mexican standoff of gargantuan proportions. And it's confusing not because it's stupid or illogical, but because there are so many things to keep track of that for an average film viewer, one can easily get lost. I know when I was a kid, I just chalked up the scene to Pirates good, British bad, but it's so much more than that. Each piece of dialogue and line is a negotiation and shift in power. So I thought, why not take this video to shed some light and understand this extremely complicated, honestly underrated gem of a scene. Because once you understand it, the political maneuvering and writing here is super clever and fun to watch unfold. The effect it has on the plot of the story is critical, and today, let's go into that. Let's analyze and understand the most complicated scene in movie history, the desire of the Black Pearl. Before going into the scene itself, I think it's best to set the stage so we know what it's about. So, the last film, Dead Man's Chest, ended with the British gaining full control of the ocean via Beckett getting control of Davy Jones. So, obviously as a kid, like I said before, it's easy to chalk up this film to Pirates good, British bad.
If the company controls the chest, they controls the sea. A truly discomforting notion, love.
However, it's so much more than that. And this is easily shown with the first act of the movie focusing on getting Jack and the Black Pearl back from Davy Jones' locker. This is critical. Jack and the Black Pearl are needed to understanding the plot of this film and by extension the scene we are going to analyze. His death put a spanner in a lot of characters' plans. Take a look how valuable Jack and his beloved ship are.
The Black Pearl was to be mine. The Black Pearl was to be mine. Why I could not leave Jack to his well-deserved fate.
Captain Turner needs the pearl, and you felt guilty. And you and your brother in court.
And of course, this scene takes place pretty much right after Jack is brought back from the locker. So now these characters are going to all want different things with that mission accomplished. So the scene is going to get confusing because it's going to converge multiple characters to one spot and thus all their various motivations for the future of the film. So let's now understand the characters and their bargaining chips. There are 6 important power players here. There's Cutler Beckett, Sao Feng, Barbossa, Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann, and of course, Jack Sparrow himself. Each character has many layers, many motivations, and thus holds many pieces of leverage. Some of these characters are pieces of leverage themselves too, which is where the complications are going to arise. Let's go through each character one by one, analyzing the leverage they currently hold and what they want to hold.
Why fight when you can negotiate? All one needs proper leverage.
Beckett, I would argue, is the person with the most power here, but not all the power. He holds the heart of Davy Jones, thus having the leverage over all the pirates. But even though he wants Jack dead, his main goal is just complete pirate eradication. Thus, he is scared of this magical secret weapon they might hold, so what he wants most is information on the pirates' meeting, the Brethren Court. On top of that, he wants the Black Pearl as that's the only ship that can outrun the Dutchman. So, in essence, he needs it for his ultimate goal of piracy extinction. Then there's Sao Feng with the next amount of power. He held the ship, crew, and charts to get Jack, so this means he holds leverage over Will, as that's who he made a deal with to get Jack, as well as Barbossa, as he is a pirate lord. Thus he holds the lives of many pirates. Meanwhile, what he wants is just pure survival from the losing side. However, as a pirate and a pirate lord, he has another obligation. See what I mean that things gonna get confusing? Then we have Will Turner, who has the leverage of the deal he made with Sao Feng, thus he technically has ownership of the Black Pearl, which is what he wants most as he needs the Black Pearl to free his father from the Dutchman, as he knows it's the only ship that can put up a fight against Jones and the Dutchman, while also having a secondary want in keeping Lizzie safe. Speaking of Lizzie, she suffers from not having much leverage as she has no prior deals or things she currently holds. However, what she does have is the power of being a woman and weaponizing people's preconceptions of her, which is cool. What she wants is also fairly complicated with her love for Will, guilt for killing Jack, and vengeance towards Beckett. She really just wants to get out of the situation and into a better spot for the pirates to beat the British. Then we have Barbossa, who has even less power, as his main pieces of leverage are really that he is a pirate lord, has a piece of 8, but most notably has knowledge of Calypso, because of Teodalma and being resurrected by her. And what he wants is to release her and keep the pirates alive, so he wants the pieces of 8, specifically cooperation from Jack and Sao Feng. Which leaves our last character with arguably the least amount of power and the biggest wildcard, Jack Sparrow. On the surface, Jack arguably holds nothing. The Black Pearl has been shuffled around more times than a blunt, and everyone here holds something more than him. But what he does hold is information about the pirates, being that he is a pirate lord and actually has a piece of 8. Meanwhile, what he wants is survival, like Sao Feng, but also has a debt to Jones in his death. So that's a lot of stuff in rotation. Let's see if we can summarize and list all the pieces of leverage in play. Let's count it down. We have the Heart of Davy Jones, which controls the Dutchman, Jones, and thus the fates of Jack and Will's dad. We have the Black Pearl, the only ship to challenge the Dutchman. We then have the mystery and information of the Brethren Court, mainly the piece of 8, which then encompasses the cooperation of Barbossa, Jack Sparrow, and Sao Feng as they each have a piece of 8, which then also encompasses the favor of the goddess, Calypso, which only Barbossa knows to be Teodalma, but Sao Feng mistakes for Elizabeth, making her a piece of leverage herself. On top of the fact that she's also an important one for Will's cooperation and things like that. And finally, if this isn't confusing enough, the scene adds yet another piece of leverage in Jack's compass, which of course
Points to the thing you want most.
Now that's a lot of puzzle pieces. Let's try and complete the puzzle. So we just established all the major players that are about to interact. Beckett, Sao Feng, Will, Lizzie, Barbossa, and Jack. We know all their wants and all the pieces of leverage in play. Jack has been saved from the locker, and now the group of him, Barbossa, Will, and Lizzie need to regroup and figure out what to do next. Jack and Barbossa butt heads, because they do, and as we established before, Will made a deal with Sao Feng for the Black Pearl after they rescued Jack, which is where our conflict begins. Sao Feng comes upon the group, looking to settle his debt, but plot twist, he made a deal with Beckett to deliver the revived Jack Sparrow. This makes sense because earlier in the film, when Will and Sao Feng made that deal, Mr. Mercer, Beckett's hired goon, heard them making the deal and learned that Sao Feng wanted to work with Beckett for survival. So here, those events are paying off, which leads to the main part of the scene, which is really just two events being juxtaposed and cross-cut between each other. The confrontation of Jack and Beckett, as well as the rest of the four bozos negotiating on their own. Here is the meat and potatoes that begins to make sense once we know all the characters, their wants, and their pieces of leverage. We'll talk about each one individually, starting off first with the Jack and Beckett scene. First off, I just want to say that it's not often we get conversational negotiation scenes in heavy blockbusters between the main protagonist and antagonist of the film. So this is just really cool. I mean, there are some occasional small ones here and there, like Tony and Loki in Avengers, or Doctor Strange and Thanos in Infinity War, but this one is interesting because the characters are making a deal to work with each other, while still trying to betray each other.
Square my debt with Jones. Guarantee my freedom.
Of course. It's just good business. It's nothing personal, Jack. It's just good business.
The scene starts with Jack initially coming in and searching for the heart of Davy Jones while Beckett monologues. This is low-key a very smart move by Jack that I never picked up on until this most recent rewatch. Jack is really just pretending to look here, hoping Beckett stops him and actually tells him where the heart is, which is exactly what happens.
The heart of Davy Jones is safely aboard the Dutchman and so unavailable for use as leverage to satisfy your debt.
This is actually similar to how Davy Jones showed the key to Will in the last movie. These villains can be so dumb sometimes. But yeah, Jack finds out the heart is on the Dutchman, which is useful information for later when he has to stab the heart in the climax. The scene then also uses this information to transition into understanding a post-mortem Jack's motivations. We haven't really gotten that yet, except for this super underrated and short exchange between him and Barbossa. He may have died, yet here he is, and Jones still wants his soul. The scene also gets credit for this amazing line that I still use to this day every time something shitty happens.
Close your eyes and pretend it's all a bad dream. That's how I get by.
But in all seriousness, the scene does a great job of telling us exactly what each party is looking for, why Beckett wants to talk to Jack, and the deal that is being curated. Beckett is wary and wants information on the mysterious Brethren Court, and is willing to provide Jack with what he wants, which is safety from Jones and freedom. As Beckett says, it's just good business. As the scene continues to crosscut with the rest of the pirates, we actually see Jack discussing where everyone else will stand on this deal and where each party is to go from here. Remember, we have 3 ships in this Mexican standoff. Jack proposes taking the Pearl to Shipwreck Cove and leading him there, but then there's that spanner we talked about of the compass being reintroduced. Beckett and Jack, being these strong strategists, to go through the various options. Beckett wants Jack dead, but can't kill him because he needs Jack because of his morally flexible nature to betray the pirates, while Jack needs Beckett to keep him from Jones and getting killed. Again. Thus, he takes the compass and strikes this crazy deal, which at first seems like Jack betraying the pirates, until later in the movie we find out it's much more than that. After that, Jack says his iconic lines, and their conversation comes to a close with an interruption of the pirates escaping, which if we just had this scene, would have come out of nowhere, but the brilliance of this scene is its cross-cutting with what Sao Feng, Barbossa, Will, and Lizzie are up to. So let's back up again. Jack was just given over to Beckett by Sao Feng. On Sao Feng's side, we find out he really just made a deal with Beckett to deliver Jack and the pirates on the Pearl in exchange for survival and getting the Pearl himself, because of course, it can outrun the Dutchman.
Lord Beckett's not going to give up the only shippers can outrun the Dutchman, is he?
So he double-crosses Will, only for Mr. Mercer, really Beckett, to double-cross him and seize the Pearl for himself, because of course, it can outrun the Dutchman.
Lord Beckett's not going to give up the only shippers can outrun the Dutchman, is he?
With Sao Feng screwed over by the British, Will screwed over by Sao Feng, and Jack and the main crew screwed over by Will, Barbossa takes it upon himself to make a new deal, and promise something new to Sao Feng. See, Barbossa knows Sao Feng is a well-written and underrated side character that has actual layered motivations. He knows Sao Feng wants to survive and be on the winning side, and feeds into that by promising that the pirates have Calypso, alluding to the fact that he wants to release her and needs all parts to do so, like Jack and him as their pirate lords and hold pieces of 8. He pretty much tells us the meaning of these pieces of 8, which was a mystery until now.
All the cards.
Sao Feng wants to curry favor with her, but mistakes her human form for Lizzie. Barbossa, noticing this and realizing that this is the only way out of the situation, tries to get all parties to, agree. It's actually kind of funny seeing Barbossa, someone with the least amount of leverage, use that little amount of info he has to strike a deal where he arguably benefits the most. He gets Sao Feng to believe Lizzie as the only price to accept, and gets Lizzie to realize the only way out of this is for her to make the decision with her own agency. Will also standing up for her is just a nice thing to add. But yeah, they end up coming to a new deal where the pirates break free from Beckett together, Sao Feng and Lizzie go one way, while Barbossa and Will take the Pearl and go the other way. Barbossa gets to kick Mercer in the nuts, which is an added bonus, all while Jack strikes his own deal with Beckett to lead him to the Brethren Court, all while escaping safely back to the Pearl. With that, our adventure picks up, and the confusing scene comes to a close. But now, let's go over how this scene is so important for the rest of the movie, what it sets up and pays off, and why it's just so damn brilliant. When we watch these big blockbusters today, the stories all seem to end up fairly simple. Not that they're bad, they're just simple to appeal to the masses. I mean, it's easy for everyone to watch Endgame when the heroes all have the collective goal of get Infinity Stones, stop Thanos. But this scene shows that blockbusters can exist to be complicated and give each character in the story their own agenda. On a first watch, it may feel like a lot, cause many characters. But like I've said countless times, it's easy for viewers to chalk up the scene to British bad, pirates good. It's also not like it's all set up with no payoff. We see the effects instantly, our heroes escape. Simple enough. But if you want to get invested just a bit further, this scene sets up the elaborate plans and plot of the rest of the film, as well as brings each character's motivations to the forefront pretty easily. I mean, the characters spout their reasoning pretty obviously, but not in the same way that it gets boring and exposition-y. It's entertaining seeing our characters problem solve in real time. We get to see the inner workings of everyone's minds, not just one protagonist, but 6. Every character has agency and works towards making an eventual effect on the scene at the end. But the main brilliance behind it is how well written, edited, and shot it is. I mean, if the scene was just one conversation between Jack and Beckett, but then eventually interrupted with the pirates escaping, it wouldn't make much sense and Loki would feel cheap. But because the scene is cross-cut with the other characters making their own deal, it not only makes the events of the story flow more naturally, but it also really builds and adds massive weight to the scene. I mean, take a look at when each cross-cut is placed. First we learn that Sao Feng ambushes Jack and the gang, so we get him taking over the ship, shitting on Jack, before we learn that Beckett is here too. So the scene transitions to their one-on-one exchange, simple and effective. But then instead of staying on that exchange, there is a cut to the opposite scene where there is a beat. More specifically, a change in power because of new information or deals being struck between the pirates and the British. For example, when Beckett and Jack start their exchange, they're on even ground, but when Beckett threatens Jack with telling Jones he's alive, the power shifts to the British, cutting then to the other scene. Will's power is then challenged when Sao Feng betrays him for Beckett, which then transitions back to Jack and Beckett themselves. Beckett here has the power, but then tells Jack he needs info on the pirate court, switching power once again into the pirates' hands. So of course, we switch scenes again, and show that because Beckett is betraying Sao Feng, Barbossa takes it upon himself to now make a new deal, putting the pirates back in control. With both parties starting to make new negotiations, the cuts and momentum speeds up. Jack, knowing he has power, negotiates with Beckett for the lives of the other pirates, where they come upon Lizzie, so the scene then transitions to Sao Feng asking for Lizzie, but then back to Beckett introducing the compass, Will then standing up for Lizzie, but Sao Feng not backing down, then Jack saying that the compass is pretty much useless and he needs him, then Lizzie agreeing to their deal, then Beckett saying he'll kill Jack, then Will and Lizzie arguing until the deal is struck, and finally ending on Jack defending himself and making the deal in the end. It's a fun back and forth that gets faster and more intense as the scene goes on. But the other brilliance of this scene is the effect it has on the plot. When the movie starts, all we really know is that we need to get Jack back for reasons. Lizzie feels guilty, Will wants the pearl to save his father, and Barbossa has this mumbo-jumbo about a pirate court.
You made that up.
However, after that happens, we have no real trajectory for the plot. This scene is crucial to understanding where the plot must plot. It sets up everything through both Jack's deal and Barbossa's deal. Both Jack and Barbossa use their deals to get this big victory for the pirates at the end. But how? Well, the movie doesn't just spell it out, but rather consistently hints at both characters' ulterior motivations for this to eventually happen.
Let's take a look.
Jack uses Beckett's want and fear of the pirate court to get what he truly wants. Jack is a selfish person, but even he knows that the only way to truly get freedom is by getting rid of the company's power in the ocean. And he knows that the only way to do that is by getting control of the Dutchman and becoming immortal himself. But in order to do that, he needs to actually find and stab the heart. If only he knew where the heart was. Oh wait, Beckett just told him.
Is safely aboard the Dutchman and so unavailable for use as leverage to satisfy your debt.
Armed with that knowledge, now all he needs to do is get on the Dutchman and have a chaotic opportunity to stab said heart. Well, good thing we have help with the other main players mentioned earlier. Will, Lizzie, and Barbossa are also crucial cogs with their own motivations. There was Sao Feng too, but you know, side character syndrome. Let's start with Barbossa first, as it was technically his plan that we discussed in the confusing Black Pearl scene. So Barbossa got brought back from the dead, and initially, we don't know why. We just know he's a pirate lord, and he wants to assemble the Brethren Court, meaning he needs the cooperation of Jack and Sao Feng. So he rescues Jack, and Loki convinces him that it's the best course of action in this brilliant scene right before this. Then, once all the double crossing happens, he convinces Sao Feng of the importance of the 9 pieces of 8 and releasing Calypso to turn the tides. Once Sao Feng accepts for Lizzie, of course, they agree to meet at Shipwreck Cove. He then collects all the pieces of 8, except that of one person, Jack. Jack knows not to give it up yet, as that's a good piece of leverage for him against Barbossa. Plus, he doesn't really trust Calypso. But before we go further, let's circle back to the star-crossed lovers and Jack's plan. After Will betrayed the pirates to Sao Feng, who betrayed them to Beckett, who betrayed them for a deal with Jack, Will kinda gets screwed over as Jack ends up back in control and Lizzie left with Sao Feng. So he's kinda on his own again. But then he creates a new deal with Jack as part of Jack's initial deal with Beckett, which is part of a larger plan to save himself from Jones by stabbing the heart. Whew, that's a lot. He sends Will with his compass back to Beckett as part of the breadcrumb trail he was already leaving Will to make another deal with Beckett. There he gives Beckett the information of Calypso's release because of Jack, which prompts Jones to get even more mad and want Calypso killed. All of this while Barbossa has his own plan to release Calypso, while Lizzie becomes Pirate Lord courtesy of Sao Feng after, you know. So now circling back to Lizzie, she is perceived to be Calypso because of Barbossa tricking Sao Feng. So Sao Feng makes her captain after his death and gives her the last piece of 8. She makes it back to Shipwreck courtesy of my goat Norrington. Check out my Norrington video on my channel. Then when she gets there, becomes Pirate King due to some weird law anointed by Jack as he realizes that she's the only one with enough hatred against Beckett and his only chance of beating him and stabbing the heart. All of this eventually leads to the goated parlay scene, which I can totally devote a whole video to on its own, but pretty much after all the crazy events, Jack, Barbossa, and Pirate King Lizzie parlay on a small beach with Beckett, Will, and Davy Jones. This scene has too many goated moments for a conversation between 6 power players. Jones standing in a bucket is pure comedy, and I love how despite hating pirates, Beckett seems to be relishing in these pirate traditions. But yeah, that's when all the deals come to the forefront and develop slowly in the background. Beckett exposes Jack for leading them to the Brethren Court, but Will and Lizzie realize Jack's true plan of wanting to truly stab the heart. Barbossa snatches his last piece of 8 to release Calypso, while Lizzie asks to switch Jack and Will. All this works perfectly for Jack's 5D chess plan. Barbossa's collection of all pieces of 8 is his own plan, but it does let him to release Calypso, create the Maelstrom, and rile up Jones for a big 1v1 ship duel, which is actually perfect for Jack as he gets the distraction he wants to seize the opportunity to stab the heart. Meanwhile, his place switch with Will allows him to be aboard the Dutchman when the chaos occurs, as per his debt with Jones, which gives him the opportunity to be in the same place as the heart. He even cleverly escapes the brig with a fantastic callback to the original. It all would have worked out perfectly if Will hadn't have gotten stabbed by Jones himself, because then Jack would have become immortal, taken control of the Dutchman, and outsmarted Beckett. But Will stabbing him does that too, and it also makes for a somber and emotional end to his arc with Lizzie. To pretty much sum all this up, the entire plot of At World's End is able to work because of that initially confusing scene we discussed earlier. Jack is the one to create this elaborate plan to defeat Beckett using information from Beckett, Barbossa's Calypso distraction, and Will and Lizzie's cooperation. It's actually kind of crazy how insane this plan is, but how much it makes sense when you look back at it. It may stem from confusion for a lot of casual audiences, but the political maneuvering here is actually some next level shit. I swear, all these characters would be goated in Game of Thrones. Anyways, thank you for watching everybody. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you liked my video, please check out my other videos on this channel. I'm really trying to grow and rebrand. Please also let me know of any other video ideas or any other confusing scenes that may be interesting to go over. Thank you again, and have a good day. Bye.